And welcome to another edition of the ArtCast. This is episode 7 for May 11th, 2020. I'm your host, Art Shimko, coming to you live from beautiful Austin, Texas. And it's been a nice last few days. Had a really nice weekend. The weather here is beautiful. I just bought a new bike, so I've been test riding it out all around the city. Figured I need to get out a bit too. Doing this quarantining, but still need to get my exercise going in some capacity. Going for walks on the river trail towards downtown area. And now with the bike, I could get around those same areas quicker. And I like that kind of exercise. So, took a really nice bike ride yesterday down to Auditorium Shores and then to the pedestrian bridge, and, just sat and looked out into the river, and people were kayaking and paddleboarding and such. And, there were people sitting out, spread out amongst the grassy area of Auditorium Shores. So it was cool to be out and riding a bike again. But some of these hills, man, especially in my area, my neighborhood, it's very hilly. So a lot of the uphills, I'll definitely be working on that because for now I'm having to walk my bike uphill. So even with the highest gears, some of the really steep hills are challenging at the moment. So I'll have to work on that. But hope y'all had a great weekend as well. And whether you're quarantining or you're able to get out and get some exercise, whatever, and keeping with the social distancing, of course, as well. So, today's episode, thought I'd get into this story that I saw in the last week or so. I mean, there's, of course, so much going on, but this story stood out for a few reasons. There are little twists in it and maybe difference of reasoning or whatever. But normally I would maybe not talk about these kind of things, gossipy kind of things like celebrity divorces. But this divorce between Jay Cutler and Kristin Cavallari, I mean, it is kind of sports related since Cutler was a quarterback for many years with Denver and then with Chicago for a long time, and his 1 year with Miami. So, I saw this story, and it was first reported, or at least one of the first reports I saw was from page 6 of the New York Post, famed gossip column page. And they reported this, that Kristin Cavallari is divorcing Jay Cutler, apparently because he is she found him unmotivated and lazy. Because he after he retired from his last stint in football, which was with the Dolphins, I think that was like what was that, a year or two ago, I guess. That was like his one. That was his last. He retired from Chicago, then he went on to Miami, and had that one season, and then that was it. He apparently he's just at home. He's hanging out with his kids and with their animals on their farm in Tennessee, and he's really not about doing much else. I mean, he played these seasons. He played these seasons in football. Made a lot of money, and I mean, if you followed Jay Cutler's career in the NFL, you'd see that. He looked like he just had that vibe, just that like I'd rather be somewhere else, but here when he was at the podium, for the post game pressers. Well, even when they won a game, you just looked at him and he just had that like, why am I here? It was it was funny to see the least, but except if you were a Chicago fan, you know, he was a very polarizing figure in that city. You know, fan bases, for the most part, they love their athletes. You know, sometimes they have a love-hate relationship with them. So, you know, if they play really well, but they have a certain attitude or whatever, done some certain dumb shit, whatever, people will still give him a pass because they love him. But Cutler, I mean, he didn't really give much of a reason, I think, for the fans to love him. You know, he didn't have that kind of, you know, that vibe where he was like, hey, you know, you guys are the best or whatever. And, you know, sometimes you don't have to be like that, but I mean, he really just had that obvious attitude of, you know, you could just see it on his face. He just kind of had this pout, like this just uninterested pout. He just, well, you know, like, can we get this over with? You know, when these reporters are asking him questions and after the game and such. But you know, but yeah, you know, I saw him play. I saw him in a Monday night game against the Eagles. I forget. I'm trying to remember what year it was. I thought it was maybe 2010 or 2013. I was trying to look up earlier to see. It might have been 2010, but yeah, I went down to the Lincoln Financial Field in South Philly with my friends. My friend Matt, he's a Bears fan, and so we always planned out that, you know, whenever the Eagles came back to town, that we'd go see them. And yeah, it was when Michael Vick was starting for the Eagles, so you know they were having pretty good season, I think, that year. And the Bears came into town, and you know, and they won. You know, Cutler had a good game. You know, I don't think it was a blowout. I couldn't remember the score, but I think it was pretty close. But you know, they won and everything. So I got to see him in action, and you know, he could be a decent quarterback. Other times, he had his moments, like in that playoff game where you know, he left the field and sat out for this game, and people thought there was an injury, and I don't think there was an injury. He just, you know, they were losing the game, and I think he just sat out the game. If I'm wrong, you can correct me on this in the comments, but you know, that was something I think that really irked, you know, the Chicago Bears fan base, to say the least. I mean, it was hard to defend a guy who does shit like that, you know, and you know, like, it's like, man, if you don't want to be here, shit, you know. So then they draft a young quarterback, and then he retired, and then came back for Miami, and that was not much going on there, you know. It's Miami, and there's, you know, the infamous play where they put out they did a wildcat play or something. I guess I don't know if they put out a wide receiver or another quarterback for that play, but they had it where, like, Jay was, like, he was on the outside, you know, of the line or whatever, front line, you know, offensive line, and when they did the play, he just stood there. Like, you could see it on YouTube. See if I can find a link. I'll put it in the show description, but yeah, he just stands there while they're like, while the play is commencing. It's hilarious. He just, like, he's like, I got my 12 million or whatever he got, you know, or 17 million, whatever, I forget, whatever he got, but he's just like, yeah, I got my money. He's just standing there. You know, they're doing terrible as usual that season and such. So, and then after that, you know, he was done. I think the whole thing was he was going to go into broadcasting, I guess, like a Fox broadcasting stint after his football career, after he retired from Chicago, and instead he decided to go to Miami because I think that was a bigger money offer. So I think it's funny that this one story comes out that, you know, his wife, or soon to be ex-wife, you know, was like, oh, he's lazy, and like there was a source, which I'm sure is one of people from her camp, was like says she was growing increasingly impatient with him. He was supposed to take this big job at Fox Sports and have a life after football that would get him off the couch and do something. Instead, he backed out. This was 3 years ago and joined the Miami Dolphins. That didn't pan out well, and when he left with no TV gig, it says, and then he was left with no TV gig until she got the show for them. They had she has this reality show, or had it, called Very Cavallari or whatever, and it just follows her, Kristin, around doing her shit and stuff, and then when he was done with the Dolphins, like I guess he became part of that show, and that was the only TV gig he had going, and just as I was thinking, like the same source or whatever says this quote, that Kristin, quote, views herself as very polished and put together, and Cutler as this lazy, unmotivated guy. So it's like, it sounds like she wants them to be this like power couple, like this power Hollywood couple, which, she saw at the time when they got married. He was still, quarterback for she was an actress on this on one of these like soap operas called The Hills or whatever. So as I could see, she wants to be this like power media couple. He has this broadcasting career like many athletes do after they retire from sports, and then she's doing whatever she's in the media. I don't know what she's doing currently if they don't have this show at the moment, but pretty much, she sees that, it's not working because she sees he doesn't want to be part of that, or he's not into that. I mean, the guy, said he's retired, he made all this money, he just wants to chill. I mean, it looks like they've traveled. I mean, I think that that was any time they've made the news, they don't seem to make the news much, except for like if they travel. They're one thing at least I've seen is that they don't have. You haven't seen any much drama with them. They have 3 kids. I think the biggest thing recently was like they were blasted because they were during the whole height of the pandemic and the coronavirus. They still traveled to like the Bahamas or something for like a family vacation, and I think they ended up returning early or whatever for precautionary reasons, but I guess they were like blasted in the media or whatever. I don't know, or who knows. I guess they had people also on Twitter giving them shit, like like the norm these days. So, but they're not like nothing like Earl Thomas and his wife, like down here in East Austin. They had it where they had their incident where she confronted him, with a gun or whatever, or a weapon, because she, caught him and his brother in bed with another woman and all that kind of shit, So, like, they don't have that kind of level of craziness going on. So it's, this divorce is like, the big shocker thing for them. I think they were married like 10 years or whatever. So, but again, it's interesting that her whole thing is that she's unmotivated and lazy, and she wants to move on. But then there's also another thing I read, which I have to say, for this story, I went places I didn't really never normally go. Kind of went down a bit of a rabbit hole of gossip columns, and it's like not too far, but enough to be like, oh man, this is the one time I'm gonna have this website on my phone. So, but apparently, she's also from her camp, her group, people, sources saying that wasn't the case. She was fine with him being, whatever, hanging around or whatever. It's just that they just grew apart. They just fell out of love after 10 years together and such. It just naturally. But I mean, that could be motivated from just two people having just very different philosophies on life, on how they want to do things. She's a go-getter apparently, I guess, and she's going to keep herself in the media spotlight, whether it's going to be on talk shows or hosting, some show or award ceremony thing or whatever the case may be. And he doesn't want to be in the spotlight. He just wants to be at home, and I mean, shit, he wants to be home with his kids. I mean, that does not sound like a horrible thing to me. I mean, most celebrities, I want to say most, and generalize it. There's a portion of celebrities that don't give a shit about their kids, or give time to their kids, but kind of just give them, like an obligated time or like a whatever, and then they have to go off and, do their other obligation, another acting job, whatever it is, or appearance, whatever it may be. So, but I mean, I remember seeing this thing. It was on TMZ years ago when Jay and Kristin were like on vacation somewhere, and they got a photo of him, and he just like flipped him the bird because he's just like he just doesn't give a shit, and he's just like, yeah, like, fuck you, like, well, I'm just here on vacation, like, what do you need to take a photo of me for, and they're gonna write about how like they're on vacation or here, they're doing this because that's what it is when you're a celebrity. And I said he doesn't want that shit. I mean, they live on a farm in Tennessee. He doesn't live in any big city, nowhere near any like nowhere near any media capital or hot spot or anything, or big city. So that just may be like growing apart because you have different things going on in your lives. But I mean, I could believe in a way that she would sense that, that, oh God, he's lazy, he's motivated, he's in the house all the time, he's not doing anything, but apparently I also saw something mention that he does maybe have there is some interest with him from like ESPN and another, maybe Fox or whatever. There were like two networks mentioned, I think, that were, CBS. It was CBS and ESPN that were, that had offers, for broadcasting. But, I don't know if I could see, maybe it's just perception becoming reality from seeing how he is in his bits with speaking with the media and just how he looks. But I don't know how he would be as, a broadcaster. Like, I mean, he doesn't have to be like a Terry Bradshaw, or like a really bombastic kind. But I mean, I see these other guys like Boomer Esiason and Howie Long and Tony Gonzalez. I see how these other guys carry themselves, and I don't know if maybe Jay could be like that. I mean, they might have to like season him. I don't know. I don't know if they have to like maybe season him or like just give him a few pointers and such, because I just feel like he would just sit there and be like, yeah, I don't know what. He would almost be pulling like he's almost gonna be like pulling the Bill Belichick kind of thing, just like oh my God. So we'll just see how that goes. But if he does get a broadcasting stint, I could be wrong. Maybe he'll have some kind of he'll have some kind of personality as such. But there's also like some other interesting stuff. Like there was one. This is like from some other, kind of gossipy site. So take it for a grain of salt, whatever. I could see this. It says apparently, his behavior was overwhelming her. Says the quote from this source is, Jay had a temper. He was a shouter. He didn't have an issue about calling her out or yelling at her in front of other people. That experience was really embarrassing her. He would be rude to fans, and that was really embarrassing to her. That's not her at all. She's always nice to her fans. It's been like that for a long time, but she was sticking it out for the kids. Yeah, I mean, you know, the thing with the fans, you could definitely see. I mean, that's why I said, like, earlier in the beginning that, you know, his relationship with the fans in Chicago was, you know, very weird in a way. It was like, I'm sure there were guys that were like, yeah, he's a good player. Like, I don't need him to be, you know, Mr. Personality as long as he's out there being solid. But then he had his games where he was just like shit, and people just be like, what the hell? Like, this guy's like, you know, he's like water, hot this week, cold this week, warm this week. You know, it's just which one are you gonna get kind of thing with him. So and I could see him just being like a dick with the fans, you know, just how he carries himself, like in general. It seems like I said with the pressers, and just how just seeing the look on his face, like just, you know, maybe the photographer just capture him at like the wrong time or a certain time, but you just see the look on your face, and you're just like, yeah, I'm afraid I'm gonna go up to this guy, ask him for an autograph, and he's just gonna tell me to go fuck myself or something. So, but yeah, I mean, that's another thing I can understand. I mean, you know, if he was demeaning her in a way, I mean, I don't know the situations. There's no, you know, he's not there telling his side, but, you know, if he was doing that kind of thing where he was humiliating her at times or calling her out or whatever the deal is, I mean, it could be for something that was, I don't want to say justified, but something where she maybe needed to be called. I mean, who knows? But that's another thing I could see. But I've only seen that mentioned like once. I only have seen that mentioned in too many other things. The main narrative for this story is that you know, she's like found him lazy and every kind of thing or whatever, and but you know, another thing that I thought was interesting was another site I saw said that it was Cutler that initiated the divorce or filed for the divorce, and says here, let's see. Cavallari and Cutler reached a temporary custody agreement earlier this month, agreeing to split their time 50-50 with their 3 kids. But Jay's looking for long-term custody of the children according to their divorce filings, which would make sense for him because, like I said, he's the one hanging out with her all the time. He's the home body. He's the dad. He's, you know, dad staying at home with the kids, hanging out with them. Says the very Cavallari star was, quote, blindsided when retired Chicago Bears quarterback filed for divorce in late April after he and the Uncommon James founder had reportedly been working toward an amicable split. Another source told this E! News she had hoped they could work things out more amicably, and they were off to a good start before Jay pulled the trigger. So this report says that Jay filed for divorce. So who knows? But like I said, it's, you know, at least it looks like they're gonna keep, you know, they're gonna keep it as not as, you know, as least messy as possible. You know, I like I said, another reason I found, you know, divorce is so common in that industry, in the media entertainment industry, and in this society in general, especially in this country, you know. And you know, my parents divorced when I was young, so that, I guess that, I don't know if this, that was probably like the last thing I thought of. I just thought more of the, you know, the reasonings behind, you know, the split. I thought was interesting, but but before I wrap this show up, this episode up, there's one more part of this story that I thought was really, really funny. Like I said, dug around for this kind of thing, all these various sites. But apparently, so yesterday was Mother's Day, and I hope all the mothers had an amazing day and were treated like gold. That should be like every day, actually. I mean, mothers are the fucking best, and they need to be treated like gold all the time. So, but yeah, yesterday was Mother's Day, and so apparently, there's a Jay Cutler Instagram, and it's a verified one, I guess. So, but the funny thing is, apparently, from what I read here, Kristin runs it. There was a message on there yesterday saying like, Happy Mother's Day, whatever. And it looked like something that, Jay posted. It said, Happy Mother's Day to all moms. These 3 little ones picked a good one. And it's a photo of her with the 3 kids. It's from the back, and they're like staring out into like the ocean, or like on a beach somewhere. But apparently, let's see, the handle is If Jay Had Instagram. But from what I read here, he does not run that Instagram. Like, he does not post that Instagram, and like his and like fans, were like tweet, like they commented on the post, like calling her out because but she had admitted 2 years ago that she runs. It says he runs the Instagram. It said it's not him running it; it's me. It's what Jay would have said if he had Instagram. So, but people were like, they were like, thought it was like really disrespectful, and they just thought it was just really weird and just fucked up that she would do something like she's like complimenting herself, but like sounding like he said it or something. So that's so that's funny, but who knows? That's another wacky little twist. And that's best of luck to them, and the kids, that's something they're gonna be dealing with and such. So that's that. And I think we are going to wrap this up today. So I just want to thank y'all for listening to the ArtCast. Thank you for your support. Had some people telling me that they're listening to it and they're enjoying it. I really appreciate it because I love doing this. And there's plenty more to come. And I may have another episode again this week. I want to try to catch up with some shows because I wanted to do this over the weekend, and I just had so much going on and stuff. So I was like, I really need to buckle down and do this show. So thanks again, and I'll talk to you soon. And you take care.